Welcome back to Attack on Titan Anime Review, episode number 49. This will be the 80th episode of the anime. Yep, episode 80, which is called From You 2,000 Years Ago. This one finishes up adapting chapter 121. One goes through the entirety, from beginning to end, of 122. It covers the last 14 pages of chapter 123 and one page of 124. Okay, first thing we see in this episode is we see full in somewhat detail Gersha Yeager when he massacres the Rail family, minus Historia and her father, Rod Reese. Rod Ross, I think his name is. Yes. And it is shown that apparently Eren manipulated his own father to do that. Yes. From the future. For 4 years. Basically, I would say this is presumably about 7 years in the future, I'd say. Yep. So, pretty much. So, then we come out of that. And then Eren basically is seeing Ymir. Ymir's being told by Zeke to take away the aliens' ability to have children. And then, of course, Eren's like, no, we're not doing that. So he proceeds to apparently get out of his chains, apparently ripping off his own thumbs. Yes, seriously, he does this. Now, before this, we actually see a lengthy flashback for Ymir. Pretty much in a way, we go through a detailed flashback, a little more detail than what's been shown in the anime before, where we see Ymir in a village. By the way, a lot of the episode, we have seen people who are acting very timid and have their eyes shadowed. Ymir's is shadowed the whole episode until the last couple minutes. We see her in a village. Seems like she's basically just getting water from a well, and all of a sudden a bunch of soldiers show up at the village, where they attack her village, and then they proceed to be really disgusting. And thank God they only saw this for 1 second. And of course, Ymir is implied she went with this too. The survivors of the massacre village had their tongues removed. Yes, seriously. They had this happen. To me, this was, oh my gosh, seeing this is this is not something I like seeing. Thank God they didn't show the tongues being cut. It would have been disgusting to see that in the anime. Especially, people would probably be vomiting seeing this. Luckily, we see the thing where they're about to do it, and you can tell basically these people have their tongues moved because these slaves do not speak. Basically, all the survivors are taken as slaves, including Ymir. And apparently they're slaves for a little while, and then, of course, a pig escapes. And everybody points to Ymir as the one responsible for this. So, she basically admits, not saying it per se, but basically she does confirm that she was responsible for it. And the king says, the king, his name is Fitz, just like the one in present day, the one who preceded the story as the ruler of the walls. He says, you are free. And then she proceeds to run away, where she gets hit by 2 arrows, one in the shoulder, the other in her leg. And then she runs to a gigantic tree that looks like about the same height as a redwood tree you see in California. I've seen pictures of these trees, so I know what these things look like. I personally have never been to California, so I don't know what these things look like in person. I've only seen things in pictures. These are really tall trees. And this looks like a very similar tree we actually have seen in one of the OVAs, where there's a hole inside. And I believe in one of the OVAs, Titan was actually found near one of these trees. And it was suspected this Titan was actually one of the people from another battalion who apparently was transformed into a Titan at one point. And it's implied that these particular one of these OVAs is in fact canon, but it's not fully detailed per se. Yeah, for one thing, the OVAs, I would say they're canon to the anime. Unknown if they're canon to the manga. Unknown. So, she goes inside, and then she wanders around for a bit. She's hiding from the forces of the king's soldiers. And then she falls down a shaft and ends up in the water. It looks like she's about to drown. So this weird snake creature looks like basically like a spine, and it gets attached to her. And then she transforms into the world's first Titan, which they refer to this thing as a Montress. I think that's how Fitz pronounces it. Basically, she gets the power of the founding Titan. And then, of course, they proceed to conquer the Marleyans, which, of course, has been somewhat detailed in, I believe it was, like, flashbacks, as was mentioned actually in this arc, by the way, about Marleyans' involvement with the aliens, about their war with them. And this went on for quite some time. And then, of course, they have where the aliens have their own kingdom. And then, of course, one of the men decides to try to kill the king with a freaking spear. Ymir gets stabbed with a damn thing. And he's like, well, by the way, before this, when she comes back, now they do change the dialogue here. Yes. Where they change a word. Okay, now what he says in the manga to Ymir when she comes back after she gets powerful Titan, she says, "You will bear, as a reward, you will bear my children." In the anime, he says, "You will bear my seed." And she gives birth to 3 girls. 3 daughters. Who, by the way, these are their names. Maria, Rose, and Shuna. Sana, exactly. And you're probably thinking, those names sound very familiar. You want to know why? Because those are names also the 3 walls on Paradise Island. Yeah, Wall Rose is the one in the middle. I think that one was basically the main the main center wall. I think if I remember correctly, Shuna was the outermost wall, and Maria was basically in the middle. And that was what it was in the anime, but I think they did reverse it a bit of which order these were. They actually changed a bit of which order they were in the manga. So then, of course, because she apparently died, basically the king orders his 3 daughters to eat their mother just so they can get her power. I am not kidding about that. They literally ate her. And thank God they trimmed this down in the anime, because basically this is a very bloody scene in the manga. And then apparently, he's told their daughters, when the time comes, have your own children, and then have basically at a certain point them eat you. And I'm like, what the heck? So basically we have a long cycle of cannibalism. All started by the original King Fitz. Yep. And then we see, of course, Ymir walking about with Lemore, and that's when, of course, Eren catches up with her and basically says, "You're not a slave, you're not a god, you're a person." And that's when we finally see her actual eyes, which look very similar to Historia's eyes. I mean, if you look at Ymir, without the shadow of the eyes, she looks exactly like Historia. You could say Historia is basically kind of like a reincarnation of Ymir. Of course, there's a flashback that leads into that one, where you have Ymir and her elder sister, who, by the way, was actually the previous host of Founding Titan just before Gersha got it. The one who Gersha killed in that flashback that happened just after the Colossal Titan attacked the walls. Excuse me. So, then, of course, after he talks to her, and then we finally cut to outside. Apparently, we still see Eren. Apparently, his head is still in Zeke's hand. And apparently, the spine that basically the Founding Titan's power, which apparently was the same thing it was used to create the Titans in the first place, restore Eren and basically create this gigantic Titan that's even bigger than the Turkey Titan. That's what they refer to Rod Reese, his Titan form. This is even bigger than that, though. This is a freaking skeleton. And Zeke is absorbed into this. And then Eren does something completely unexpected. Like where he makes an announcement. "Subjects of Ymir, those who live on Paradise Island across the world, you will not be harmed. But those of you who threaten to basically hurt us, I will eliminate you." So what does he do? Unleash the Wall Titans. All 3 walls get destroyed in this episode. Like, first, basically, it's not only Shuna, but Maria, even freaking Rose is implied, basically destroyed, and unleashes the gigantic Titans from the walls, which are first seen in the anime back at the end of episode at the end of the first season of the show, and all the walls have been destroyed. Yes, all the walls have been destroyed. And basically, what Eren has unleashed is the rumbling. And of course, Armin's like, we won! And of course, and by the way, in this dreamscape, we have Eren. Basically, have Eren talking to Mikasa. Basically, anybody who's subject of Ymir basically is here. And this is how they, and of course, they said, oh yeah, everything's been thawed. They even mentioned exactly that also that Annie in the manga, her hardening got thawed too, which they show later on. So don't worry, she'll be back. Annie will be back for the first time since season 2. But wow, what a damn good episode. Can't wait for next week. And let's open Korea on Monday. Yep. But I gotta say, from what they have for the manga, I'd say that the only main change they made, aside from the fact they changed one word, they made the scene where Ymir gets her Titan power much more cinematic. It looks a lot cooler in the anime than it does in the manga. I at least got handed to Mappa for doing that. It looks really good. Damn good. Can't wait for next week's episode, which is called, it's just 81, it's called Thaw. Which, by the way, in case you're curious though, how many episodes left to air for the anime? 7. Yep, 7 more episodes. By the way, next week's episode for this anime review series will be episode 50. Yep, 50. So, yes, that's it for Cycle Review. Next one is going to be a comic corner. Yes, a comic corner. Okay, next video. Bye.